everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The freebies war is well and truly on. The BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party especially are going all guns blazing against each other. For Aam Aadmi Party, as I've said before, a question on freebies is a direct attack on their free water and electricity model. For BJP, a debate on this is a way to curb the popularity of the Aam Aadmi Party in other states other than New Delhi. Now, the economic argument against such freebies model has been made by government secretaries warning that this could lead some states the Sri Lanka way. It has also been flagged by the SBI, India's largest public sector bank, and the RBI itself. But greater than even the economic argument is the moral argument. Are such freebies announced during campaigning a way of buying votes? Elections have to be free and fair. Do such announcements pervert the electoral process and bring in an element of quid pro quo on the basis of something free that is being promised? That's really at the heart of this issue. A welfare scheme is announced after a government has come to power. But electoral promises offering something free is done primarily to come to power. Is it a practice that needs to be curbed, or at the very least a greater responsibility that needs to be brought in while announcing such schemes? That's the big debate, but before that, the political battle. Arvind Kejriwal and his party have levelled several charges against the central government for its stance of opposing the Revdi culture or freebies versus welfare schemes. The Aam Aadmi Party has cleverly also made this a battle about free perks elected representatives enjoy versus what they give to the citizens. Here are the charges and the counter charges by the central government. Now, Arvind Kejriwal has alleged, for example, that the central government announced a 25% cut in Manrega funds compared to 2021. The centre has countered that 73,000 crore rupees have been allotted. In the past, it has been increased per demand, and it will be increased if it's so desired. Now, Arvind Kejriwal had also alleged that 10 lakh crore loans of the super rich friends, quote-unquote, have been waived off. The centre, of course, has countered the fact that these loans have not been waived off. Writing down is different than waiving off, but also that 8.6 lakh crore bad loans have also been recovered in the past 8 years. Finally, the Aam Aadmi Party has alleged that 1.84 lakh crores have been lost because of corporate tax deduction that the government gave. Once again, the argument is to the super rich. But the centre has argued that actually it will earn 7.12 lakh crores in this financial year, which is much more than 18-19. So actually, the tax collection has been going up. Among other steps to curb India's debt, the petitioner, remember this matter is in the Supreme Court, the petitioner in this case, which kick-started all of this debate, has also demanded the following, specifically with regards to freebies and electoral promises. That the promise and the practice of poll promises without budgetary provisions needs to be examined. The economic assessment of such freebies should be published before announcement, and that even state governments should give this before they roll out such a scheme after coming to power. And that parties must disclose the source of revenue before promising such freebies. The petitioner is demanding that a format be set by which all political parties can be asked to do this. So the big debate that is coming up, this is the hottest debate of our times. Are freebies a way of buying votes? Listen in to what both sides are saying.
जिसको अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं बेट, BAIT, बेट, जिसको कहा जाता है दाना डाल करके मछली पकड़ने की कोशिश, ठीक उसी प्रकार ये जो फ्रीबी है ये एक बेट है. ये किस प्रकार दाना डाल करके उसमें फंसाने की कोशिश, ताकि मेरी महत्वाकांक्षा, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की महत्वाकांक्षा ये फुलफिल हो जाए.
पूरी की पूरी भारतीय जनता पार्टी इस देश की करोड़ों जनता को बार बार अपमानित कर रही है, ये कह के कि तुमको मुफ्त की रेवड़ी दी जाती है, तुमको मुफ्त की रेवड़ी दी जाती है, तुमको मुफ्त की रेवड़ी अब आगे से नहीं देंगे. भाजपाइयों, मैं कहना चाहता हूं, इतने अहंकार में मत रहो.
2 बच्चों को यहां पर लोन दिया और 19 करोड़ रुपया से अधिक खर्चा किया है, 19 करोड़, ये बताने में कि मैंने लोन दिया. ये अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की कहानी है, और सुबह से शाम तक ये फ्रीबी कर रहे हैं.
जब से अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने नरेंद्र मोदी जी की भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार की असलियत जनता के सामने रखी है, पूरी की पूरी भारतीय जनता पार्टी, इनके बड़े बड़े नेता, इनके सरकार के मंत्री बौखला गए हैं और उनके पास कोई जवाब नहीं है।
Going across to the guest now joining us, Shehzad Purawala is the BJP national spokesperson. Priyanka Kakkar is joining us from the Aam Aadmi Party. I'm also joined by two experts, Dr. Gautam Sen, who's writer and former LSE academic, and Mitali Nikor, who's also an economist. I will start with our political representatives first. Priyanka, and I'm coming to you once again. The Aam Aadmi Party is coming out doing press conference after press conference, but it is not quite, handling the issue at the heart of it, which is that it is freebies, not welfare, which is being opposed. Why does the Aam Aadmi Party have a problem if there is a debate on this issue?
Who is running away from the debate, Shivani? We are in fact repeatedly coming in. I've been on your show for the past 3 evenings at least.
Yeah, no, the reason I'm saying that, I appreciate you coming, and I know that you have been coming, and I welcome you. But the reason I said this is because you've gone to court saying that this PIL, which has kick-started this debate, should be thrown out.
There are two reasons for that, Shivani. One, it is a motive. We say that it has been brought by a person whose credentials are affiliated with the ruling party, and as such, we have questioned that locus standi. And the other thing that we have come in for is to draw a distinction between what a welfare scheme is and what a freebie is, and that seems to be the confusion. And rightly so. You will recall that even the Supreme Court questioned scolded the central government rather. It came down heavily on the central government, saying, what is your stand? Why don't you clear it? Because the freebies that are announced during elections disrupt the level playing field is what it was saying.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court came down heavily on the center for it. Now, the Supreme Court has also then subsequently said that there should be an expert panel,
right.
And it had asked for several parties' representation. It is only fair that we join the case too. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but the central question is, the Supreme Court is also saying that this is indeed a serious matter. And you've got agency after agency talking about how, we're going down a path where myopic freebies are being offered as electoral promises, almost as quid pro quo before coming into power, which in the long run only end up hurting the public and the economy.
There is also
is this not, crystal clear question, is this not a pure way of buying votes? As I said, welfare scheme a government announces once it comes to power. It budgets for it, provisions for it. These electoral promises, which you feel that the Aam Aadmi Party particularly is being attacked, but actually it is not just about the Aam Aadmi Party, it's about any political party. These, electoral promises which give something for free, is that not buying a vote?
Let me tell you what has been happening in the past decade or so. For example, you will hear a certain party claiming that you will have a pakka makan by 2022, and the deadline of it just recently, we touched that deadline, but that promise was not delivered. So people are lured by such false promises which are never fulfilled. So that disrupts the level playing field and nothing else, and that is why the Supreme Court came down heavily on the center also. That
which is fine. Then you should welcome this PIL and this debate. Why did you go to court and say don't debate this, don't allow this? Let it be set for everybody. If a norm is set, it will be for everybody. Mind you, there is a distinction between a subsidy and a freebie. I think you're mentioning the Awas. I think you're mentioning the Awas Yojana. The Awas Yojana gives targeted subsidy to get your home built. It is not about giving cash dole in your hands. There's a difference. But I've got Shehzad. Shehzad, I've been waiting. Let him come in. Let him come in.
There is cash dole in the Kisan Niti Yojana. There is a cash dole which has been copied from the south. That is also, you get the money on the day of the election. That has also happened.
All right. So Shehzad will respond to that. Why is it that you're particularly targeting the Aam Aadmi Party? What about your schemes, the BJP schemes, in states as well as at the center?
Shivani, when the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about the family first, freebie first, corruption first culture that has destroyed economies around our country, particularly Sri Lanka, Prime Minister did not speak about any party, government or personality. पर उड़ता हुआ तीर क्यों पकड़ते हैं कुछ लोग? जिसके मूंछ में तिनका है वही पकड़ते हैं. हमने किसी का नाम लिया शिवानी जी, आपकी हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों अच्छी, आप बता दीजिए. दूसरी बात, वो इसलिए पकड़ते हैं, मैं आपको बताता हूँ. There's a difference between giving free shiksha, free swasth, free education, free healthcare, and giving free pollution, free tushtikarn, free vigyapan, and free corruption, fact-free arguments. Let me explain. Schools ki jo free baat hai, throughout the entire debate, I'll tell you one thing, Shivani. If by the end of the debate, Priyanka ji tells you the 5 new schools ka naam that she has built, because she says na bahut acha school ka model hai. She had promised 500 schools, 20 new colleges. Instead of giving these 500 schools and 20 new colleges, they gave 850 tekas. She will not be able to name 5 new schools and colleges that they've built. But instead,
let's ask her. Let's go one by
if she
one.
names 5 schools and colleges that she has built in the last 8 years, I will apologize to her.
Bataiye, Priyanka ji, this is a charge you face. That
But then let me complete.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Because the Aam Aadmi
let me-
Party promises free water and electricity, and it talks about an education model, some of the deliverables that you should be questioned on get pushed to the back burner. आप बताइए आपने कौन सा नया कॉलेज शुरू किया?
Please let me answer. So one, the debate is really not about the deliverables or how they were executed. Be that as it may, because be
She doesn't
that
get to
as it
interrupt my
may,
time if she's not naming them.
Let me
No,
speak
Shivani,
now.
it is,
You want to
this is
one
not
second.
ad slot.
No,
This is not ad slot.
Listen to her
This
for
is
one
debate,
second.
debate.
No, I want to
She has
listen
to
to her
name
argument.
5 schools, 5 colleges. If she can't, I'll move on with my argument.
You asked me a question, you have to apologize.
Name
550 schools are built.
name of the college and
Five.
school.
Okay. Senior Secondary School, Sector 17, Dwarka Phase 2. Are you writing it down?
I'm writing
Are you
it down.
checking on
Please
Google?
tell me.
You can Google
Which
it
year
also.
has this been built? Which year has it
Senior,
been
you
built?
check and tell me. Senior
Arre
Secondary
bhai,
School.
you are telling me
Arre
which
you-
year it has been built.
You
Tell me
told
which
you
year it has been
apologize.
built.
Let
This is
me
how they
complete
get away.
5. No, you apologize and then I'll tell you.
Tell me the 5
Senior
schools
sec-
and
you
5 new
apologize
colleges you
first.
have built after you
You
have come to
apologize
power.
first.
Don't
I
tell me
am
पुराने
telling
schools
you-
जिसमें आपने
I am
कमरे
telling-
बनाए.
No,
This
no.
is their
I'm
argument.
telling you
Now let
27
me complete.
schools. I'm telling you 27 schools. You apologize. then I
Please
will
tell me
you
the
when they were
names
built
of those
also.
schools.
Yeah.
And
Write
the year
down
they've been
names.
built in.
Come on. Be a good boy. Write down the
No,
names.
this is not happiness glasses,
Yeah,
madam. Let's come
please,
to the facts.
please.
Where are those schools?
I am
Which year
telling
have you
the
built them?
names.
Please tell me
I am
specifically.
telling you the location also.
Yeah.
Likho.
Specifically here.
First likho. Senior Secondary School, Sector 17, Dwarka Phase 2. Likh liya?
Which year?
Second.
Which year?
Senior
Which
you will
year?
tell me now.
Date and
Why
year.
don't
Which
you
year?
tell me? I am not. Listen to me. You told me,
Which
tell me
year
the
have
names.
they
You'll
been built in?
apologize. You told me
Which
you
year
tell
have
me
they
you'll
been built in?
apologize.
These
Are we going to
schools
be
were
stuck
already
in
there.
this?
There have
Let
been
me
1,000 schools in Delhi. Which year
शहजाद,
was it built
कभी
in?
तो अपनी बात रख लो. मेरे को ये बताओ.
Which
11
year
लाख
was it
करोड़
built in?
तुमने क्यों माफ किया? तुम्हारे
Which year was it built
दोस्तों
in?
को 11 लाख करोड़ क्यों माफ किया?
अच्छा, मैं
ये
उस पे
बताओ.
आता हूँ.
चलिए,
चलिए.
now let him
Out.
complete. Now let
So
him complete.
first of all, in one school, which he's not telling me the year which is built till, let me tell you about the schools and then we'll come to this 11 lakh crore. In their
Grow up,
1027
Shehzad.
schools,
Okay,
now
let
please
him complete,
Priyanka,
let
one
him
second.
complete.
In their 1027 schools, 700 schools don't have principal, 418 schools don't have vice principal, EWS 40,000 students have not been given seats. Apart from that, 40,000 teachers positions are vacant, 22,000 guest teachers have lost their jobs, 63% of posts are vacant for teachers. Classroom corruption also took place where the classroom cost of 5 lakh rupees was escalated to 28
But what does
lakh
this
rupees.
have to do
You
with
No, I'm
know
telling you.
your-
I'm telling you. I'm explaining. I'm
Priyanka,
explaining.
let
I'm
him
explaining to you.
complete. I can't have both of you speaking over each other like that.
Their model is, for instance, even the story that you all broke today, that they gave 2 people loans, 89 had applied, and they used 19 crore for marketing. This is Vigyapanvad. This is the Revdi culture where you market more and it changes nobody's lives. And let me come to the 10 lakh crores. Shivani, you have also got a lot of knowledge on business. Writing off a loan and waiving off a loan are two different
I've
things.
been asking them this question,
Yes.
but they
One
can't
second.
continue to repeat
Forget
it.
that 10 lakh crores have been written off, which doesn't mean it's not being recovered. In fact, 8.6 lakh crores out of that has been recovered in the last 8 years. Please see this, Shivani. And the gross NPAs are at its lowest at 5.9%. This is a government that is recovering the loans that your friend Congress gave away and made into NPAs. You have the audacity to lie. They lied about corporate tax
Can I
reduction
come-
when it has increased by 28%.
No, so all
they
of
lied
those
about
arguments
Manrega
I have
funds being
talked
cut, which
about.
has
All
been
of
increased.
those arguments I have talked about. I want to
Now-
come to the crux of the issue.
Crux of the issue.
What is your issue with what they promise? BJP needs to explain exactly what are you opposing or what the Aam Aadmi Party promises during elections.
Now
That's
I'll
what
tell
they
you.
are saying.
Exact-
आपको किस चीज से problem है?
One second.
Free
First
water,
of all,
free electricity.
Yeah.
किस चीज से problem है?
Let me come to free electricity. The purpose of giving anything free or anything at a lower rate should be that somebody
Shivani,
who
you're
is a
giving him so
deprived or a
much time.
marginalized
I'll come to you
section of
after this.
society.
I'll come to you after
You
this.
What
please
is a
make sure I
welfare?
get as much
A
time.
welfare is, Shivani, when you target it to a particular section which is so deprived and has never got access to it, and when you give the access to that particular welfare scheme to it, they become self-sustaining and productive.
Okay.
When you give a freebie which applies to all, now you may not need free electricity, but you get it, and the person who does not have an electricity connection doesn't get it. The free water, for instance. 35% only have piped water connections. The rest have to depend on tanker mafia. They did not increase the piped water connectivity. In fact, it has come in the CAG report. The CAG report was not tabled by them. They allowed the tanker mafia to rule and reign supreme. BJP has loans of 30,000 crores which they did not repay.
Okay.
And then they say we are giving free water. Okay. You're not giving free water. You're giving a free water idea, but nobody has got free water till now. That's the problem.
Priyanka, that's the question over both electricity and water. The quality of water in Delhi hasn't improved. The number of people who have access to good water in their homes through taps hasn't improved. Electricity, you talk about Punjab too. It already has so much debt. Their discom health is bad. We cannot have governments just promise free electricity but not promise reforms in the power sector, not bring about reforms in the power sector. Now that's a long-term benefit to the public. Giving free electricity units and water isn't. Priyanka.
So Shivani, please hear me out patiently. I'm quite disappointed that Shehzad continues to lie, and before I answer, because I'll go back to the mudda is providing services to the citizens from the tax collected from the taxpayers. Now, since he tried to create this incorrect impression that the NPA, the central government recovered about 8 lakh crore from the NPAs, from the written off loans, that is a very incorrect statement. I say that with full responsibility, also because I happen to practice company law at NCLT. So one thing is that he is quoting a report of 18/7/2022 where the NPAs of 8 lakh crores have been recovered. That is a separate issue. That is a separate issue altogether.
I said
let me
I
come.
don't know she understands the difference between bad loan, NPA, writing off and waiving off. I don't think
let's move on. Let's move on. I cannot have this.
It is possible.
Priyanka,
that
can you come to my question? Because that's the central debate.
No, let me finish.
You offer free electricity and water, but what about the quality of both of these sectors?
Shivani, what is in question? The deliverables or why freebie is a problem? What is in question?
Deliverables are essential to this argument.
I will come to deliverables as well, but let me first finish what I'm talking about with the incorrect data that you presented. Okay. You tried to manipulate it. Let me correct that. Please so, do. As of 7th December 2021, by the on the question of writing off of loans, they stand at 12 lakh crores and only 86,000 crores.
What does writing off mean? Please explain. Let her answer. She has no answer on her deliverables of her government. So let her explain what is writing off and
waiving off. You want to mire this in legalese and in financial
Shivani, this
terms,
is not legalese. This is common sense. I can't believe that a party which is led by a so-called IRS officer doesn't know writing off and waiving off. She's saying writing off is loan mafi. Is she saying this? You have CNBC TV18. Call their anchor right now. Call your CNBC TV18 anchor right now.
Shehzad, let her complete. Priyanka, complete.
Shehzad seems to be quite at ease while he lies, and he's got quite a leverage.
Let's get to the point.
Your leader.
Shehzad, not like this. Let's get to the point.
When it comes to deliverables, if we are sitting on judgment and deliverables, then I would begin with central government deliverables also. We happen to be. Delhi government happens to be the only government which is spending about 25% on education. Okay, Delhi government happens to be the only government which is providing world-class infrastructure as well as schooling. And you must have you gave me a snide remark when we started about the happiness class, but that seems to be appreciated world over. When the dignitaries of several foreign countries come to India, they're sent to our.
I am not discussing your education model, Priyanka. I am asking you, free water and free electricity, is it superseding your delivery? For example, good water.
I'm not getting it, Shivani, because Shehzad also questioned schools. When I respond to him, you're telling me you're questioning electricity. Let me go point by point.
I didn't question education at all. I was asking you about free water and free electricity promises.
Did Shehzad not question me about education? Am I not supposed to respond to that? Is it selective?
Okay, now answer me.
Yes. So when it comes to, now you asked me about water. Nobody is saying that everything has become as it should, but we are spending the most. We are the government that spends most on hygiene. We are the government that spends most on sanitation. A simple Google research will make anyone see
Google
that.
research.
Okay. अरे आप Google research से
I have got the
उसमें
CAG
जाइए.
report. I don't rely on Google. I'll tell you what the CAG report
How
says.
did you get the
now
CAG
let me tell you what the
report?
CAG report says about your water delivery system.
I'm coming.
No, let me explain to you.
I know what
Wait
you
one
will tell
second,
me.
ma'am. On CAG on water supply. Out of the 657 water tankers used for supply by the DJB, only 250 tankers, that is 38%, had a GPS, which means full permission for them to divert the water supply. Then, out of the 1,797 unauthorized colonies as envisaged by GNCTD, only 353 were provided with piped water supply. This is the CAG report, which they did not table because they were getting exposed by this. Now, let me come to a more important point. I am not the liar. Your leader is the Indian politics ka Pinocchio, who says that the 8th pay commission has been stopped. Here is the reply in Lok Sabha. 1 second. Madam, your leader is the Pinocchio of Indian politics. Now let me tell you why. Shivani, if you remember his press conference, we can speak one at a time. Priyanka, you have more time to get exposed. Like all your other colleagues get exposed.
I have two guests waiting.
Yes. Very quickly.
Yeah, finish.
Very quickly, Priyanka's leader, Pinocchio, said that 8th pay commission has been stopped. The question says that is there a proposal to not have 8th pay commission? The answer is G nahi. That means 8th pay commission is on track. There is no proposal to stop it. He said that it's been stopped.
How can you
This is a man
so
who
much
lies
about-
out of his teeth.
You know,
His
I want to
leaders
come back
come
to
and
the
lie out
subject.
of their
Both
teeth.
of you now hold on, hold your horses.
Writing off the wave of बोल रहे हैं.
वो बात मैं पहले पूछ चुकी हूँ, मैं 3 दिन से पूछ रही हूँ वो बात. Writing off और writing down को please confuse ना किया जाए, and let's not mislead our audiences. Dr. Gautam Sen, I'm coming to you. You know, this argument that let's say there are NPAs or some loans have been written down.
Shivani,
That does not.
I want to say
One second,
before-
Priyanka, you must give others a chance. That does
No,
not
it's
really
because, you
answer the question of what we're discussing, which is pure freebies. Do you feel that that is indeed a problem? And political parties, they may compete to an extent where the entire Indian economy might just crumble because of this. Because this is such a competitive, fiercely competitive sphere.
This debate is very welcome, and it is important that we discuss how government resources are deployed. And the issue of subsidies actually is universal. It happens everywhere in the world. And freebies also exist in some form in many, many democracies. The problem is, some of these are blatant bribery for elections.
Right.
I think we all recognize it when it happens. And
Sir,
the
can
two
you tell
things
me?
to
No,
it
sir,
borne
I'm
in
sorry, I'll
mind-
interrupt you because I don't want to be, accused of being partisan. What do you think falls in the direct category of bribery versus subsidy, targeted schemes or welfare?
No, this is an empirical question. I won't point a finger at any political party. I'm not taking anybody's name.
Right.
I'm just talking about general principles. The differentiation is threefold. First of all, those which are recurrent, one-off is one category. Second, those kinds of subsidies which constitute investment and increase productivity in the economy directly or indirectly, as with the housing schemes, Saujala, etc., etc.
Yes.
And the third is what is the budgetary impact? That is the critical factor. If the budgetary impact is negative, we are taking away from future investment and growth in favor of current consumption. So we need some kind of consensus. My feeling is that it is impossible to stop freebies politically or constitutionally, though you can make it more difficult. As I've said before, we need state governments to put the money in an escrow account before they disperse free electricity or free water. I'm not against this happening. If you want to give away water and electricity, that's fine. But you deposit the money in an escrow account and do not impose this as a burden on the discoms.
Basically, put your
So,
money where your mouth
can't be
is
stopped
before you dole out such a scheme.
before you dole out. And if it's a budgetary crisis, then that will be an immediate issue because already we have FRBMs. So do not precipitate a budgetary crisis. Just recently, the chief ministers of Punjab and West Bengal have come and said, you pay off all our debts, 8 lakh crore each. Now, this is not something which other states will accept. You will precipitate a national crisis if those who give freebies are being subsidized by those who are prudent. We need to have a national consensus. Without a minimum consensus, you cannot run the country.
Sir,
We
can
know
I
what
ask
is
you
the price.
a follow-up
Everybody
question
knows.
before I go to Mitali too? This panel that is being spoken about, now the Election Commission, which we all thought was the ideal body to impose such restrictions on election campaigning, has already recused itself. They don't want to be part of such a panel. Do you believe this panel that is being spoken of can indeed come to some sort of a conclusion that can be acceptable to all?
The EC is a vehicle for carrying out constitutionally agreed policies. EC cannot by itself do this, nor can the courts. There has to be a political consensus, and people must decide whether you want to destroy our growth path, which is such an urgent necessity in this competitive world where our rivals are growing very fast. We really need to be a bit sensible about this. I'm not saying to stop giving free water. Don't make it indiscriminate, as we are seeing it is happening. Free electricity, big problem. In Tamil Nadu, in Punjab, it's a big problem. We have to address these issues for the sake of the future of the country and, for our children and grandchildren. Our country is not about you and me today. It's much more than that.
Mitali, the other question I wanted to ask is, when you get into this habit of giving out doles of freebies, for example, in Punjab, the Aadmi party promised 1,000 rupees for every woman, regardless of any benchmark, regardless of any economic status or education status, just for everybody, every month. Now, that, of course, is one, budgetarily not possible. Second is, there is a moral question of, does that then not amount to buying a vote? There is no economic criteria, no age criteria, no criteria of your social background. You cannot offer something like this. And the secondary problem is, once the government starts on this path, it becomes so difficult for anybody else to roll this back because nobody wants to be unpopular then anymore. So this becomes a recurrent problem. You can give one-time grants for people to, bring their social status, economic status up, but it cannot be a recurrent dole every month in your account.
Absolutely.
So, Priyanka, thank you so much for bringing me into the debate.
Sorry, my name is Shivani. Mitali, to go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks, Shivani. Sorry for that. And thanks for bringing me into the debate. I've been listening to all of the other speakers. And, just to comment on this particular Punjab issue, but also on the debate in general, I think the first important data point that we all should remember is the increasing income inequality that has accompanied growth in India over the last 50 years. Today, if we look at the World Inequality Database, we know that the bottom 50% of our population owns a very small proportion of our GDP. But the top 1% owns over 40% of our GDP. And a number of these, statistics come out every year about income inequality. So any debate around freebies or any kind of social protection mechanisms have to be in the context of understanding the growing income inequalities in India. And those income inequalities are gendered. They do impact women disproportionately. Those income inequalities are also impacting vulnerable sections of our population, much more than others who are in bigger cities, etc. So I think we have to first of all keep that in mind when we are having this debate.
And what's the solution to that?
With respect to the particular scheme that you talked about in Punjab of giving 1,000 rupees monthly to every woman. See, in economics, we have two types of social protection schemes that can be given. One is targeted and one is universal. So they have gone for a mildly targeted scheme where they are giving to half the population, but they are giving it to all the women regardless of income status. You will have some exclusionary errors in this and some inclusionary errors, but by and large, this scheme can also be very effective given that a majority of the women in Punjab are falling below a certain threshold that they want to target.
But is this the way to give them a sustainable way to uplift their lives? Or is this the way to make them used to a dole from the government?
No, I'm coming to it. I agree with you that we should not be saying that, giving income support should be a, sustainable thing. There should be an end time to it. We are giving it for 2 years, we are giving it for 1 year, we are giving it for 12 months, etc. There should be a timeline to it. There should be an end sunset clause.
But that doesn't happen.
Any
that
kind
doesn't
of
happen.
social protection scheme.
I've asked this question before in context of freebies and these, these doles. You start something like this, it never gets taken back because no party wants to be so unpopular that it's going to do that. They might do it if they come to power. Look at the issue of reservations in India. They were supposed to be for a timed period.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That is the, that is the backward, that is the problem with it. But at the same time, when we look at the economic distress, when we look at the post-COVID scenario, when we look at the unemployment numbers, when we look at the inflation situation today, some amount of social protection and support is required for the vulnerable population.
I'm not talking about post-pandemic. If you're talking about post-pandemic, then it has to be for a limited period of time. For example, free greens were given. It was reviewed from time to time. It's not going to continue in perpetuity. But Shehzad wants to come.
See, Mithali and both Gautam Sen have made some interesting points. Let me just add to this. Let me tell them where Mithali is wrong. For instance, the state has finite resources and all of this comes from the taxpayer. So I have to, as a state, direct it where it's needed the most. Supposing somebody is going to die without my intervention, I have to intervene there first before I intervene to help somebody else, right? Now, when you say that the Punjab government gives 1,000 rupees to all women, including a woman who might be as accomplished as you, what happens is in PGI, you read the story? PGI used to give free treatment to the poor. They could not because 16 crores was not paid by the government to PGI. You remember the story? No, that's the problem. My resources have been diverted to those who should not have got it
to more critical areas.
Because opportunity cost. Now, my limited point is that's a Revdi. That's a Revdi. The Revdi is that you've snatched away from the poorest of the poor who die without that help and intervention of the state
and instead
give it to somebody because
promise.
you want a vote.
And added to that, Priyanka can respond to this. Added to that is also the issue, that you're doing this in a manner which is almost asking for vote to get something in return when structural reforms in these industries or sectors are not happening. Those structural reforms help us more over a long period of time. Priyanka.
Shivani, so you will notice that, within the 150 days that we were able to pay a 5,000 crore debt already in Punjab, it was a debt-ridden state. And even, we are definitely talking about the 1,000 rupees scheme for women there. But it's still not implemented, and it's a promise that we have said we'll complete in 5 years. And it is not that we will not make any budgetary provisions for it or see where the money is saved from coming from. Let me please.
Let her finish.
Yeah, you've got enough time. I would say unfairly so today. So anyway, the predominant question which Shehzad should really answer, that despite such massive budgetary cuts this time, whether it is in the health research, whether it is in the education, whether it is in Manrega, whether it is in defense, with such massive cuts, and then waiving off the loans.
How much funds have been cut in Manrega? Please tell
25%,
me.
25%, Shehzad.
Are you sure? Should I read out the data?
Do not.
Should I read out the data? Wait, unlike you, I don't run away from challenges, man. So let me read out the Manrega figures for you. No, let me read out. Manrega figures were 61,500 crore in 2021 before the pandemic. Then when the pandemic hit, it went to 1,11,000 crores. Then the revised estimates was 1,11,169 crores, which was a historic spend. The next year after that, it went to 73,000 crores. Okay. And now it has been increased to 98,000 crores in the revised estimates. How has it been reduced? Lie. Pinocchio lies again.
Let her finish now. Let her finish.
मैं वो भी बताता हूँ 15 लाख किसके अकाउंट में है बताता हूँ
मैं सारे पकड़ के ले आऊंगा मेहुल चौक से नीरव मोदी they've all run away how much they took away do you know that figure do you know
you want to get into that also we will get into that also all those laws were given by your dearest Congress party whom with you had an alliance with 85% of that has been recovered by the ED their assets have been seized but your Congress party was helping them escape Abhay Tipse of the Congress with Nirav Modi.
Okay, can I just come in? I don't want this to get diverted, Priyanka.
Exactly.
Like you said, you've been on my show a couple of times when we've discussed freebies. I'm coming to you. I'm going to give you in uninterrupted time. Let's not confuse, people. I'm coming to you, Priyanka. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you.
You were letting him.
I'm coming to you.
You lied.
Not like this. Not like this.
But she lied.
I would encourage you to answer each other, but let's have each other also get time.
But she lied about
Priyanka, I had said to you earlier also, let's not confuse the issue of people defrauding banks and writing down of loans with this issue. I think your best argument will be why what you offer is a welfare and not a freebie. Let's stick to that.
And it's deliverable.
No, Priyanka. It will also be Shivani, with all due respect, that you see Miss Mithali was speaking very. She gave a very coherent example of the rising inequalities in the India, and there's a report. I don't know if Shehzad knows about it, but there's a report by the economic advisor to the PM which said that today, if you earn 25,000 rupees in India, you are in the top 10%. So that is the situation. So my question to Shahzad is, what opportunities has been created for the common citizen to remove this, income inequality, for example, or what kind of jobs you've given when there are 9 lakh, 10 lakh jobs जो government की खाली पड़ी और आपने दी नहीं, 22 करोड़ जॉब का वादा किया था पर 10 लाख वहीं खाली पड़ी हैं. It's only during the Lok Sabha chunav that the jobs are doled out, for example. Then why are the cylinders so expensive that 4.13 people could not get it refilled? Then why? No, let me finish. So clearly this government has, when today the economic criteria for being in the top 10% is that you earn 25,000.
But Priyanka, that doesn't answer the question I'm asking. One second. That doesn't answer the question that I'm asking you. How does free water and electricity solve these problems? How is what you promised? Because we're discussing just that.
Shivani, okay, I'll answer. Okay. So if you earn 25,000 rupees today, you are in the top 10%, you obviously will need some kind of welfare measures from the government to whom you pay tax on dahi and paneer. Is that only fair or no? या सारा पैसा सिर्फ माफ करना है, 11 लाख करोड़ माफ कर देना है, राइट ऑफ कर देना है, कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स रेट में स्लैश कर देना है. आप कह रहे हो आज हमारी 130 करोड़ की पॉपुलेशन में 25,000 अगर कोई कमाता है तो वो 10% में है, तो उसको कुछ नहीं मिलना चाहिए.
Okay, fair enough.
कुछ नहीं मिलना चाहिए.
Spoken about this, no? Okay.
What is the problem? Answer 2 points. Mitali raised about the rising inequality and the purchasing power of people.
Right.
If you get a little bit extra from the state government, it gives them the opportunity to spend on something else.
Absolutely.
It's called Human Development Index.
Okay, we have final few minutes left. Let's do uninterrupted. Everybody will get a chance. Yes, Shahzad.
Now, exactly taking this point forward, the Chief Minister of Delhi said he will give, to augment the income of people, 10 lakh jobs. RTI showed 3246 jobs. He said, I will give free bus savari to women. He promised 11,000 DTC buses. Today, the number of buses, 4,000, less than 4,000. The systemic changes that you need to make to deliver this. One second, can I answer? Can I answer?
Priyanka,
can I answer?
Okay, Priyanka, let him finish. I'll answer. I'll ask him if he doesn't answer the question.
Okay, I'll answer everything, ma'am, one at a time. I'm not running away. I'm not Mr.
Let's not
Kejriwal.
waste time. Go ahead.
Now, the point is that you make a promise, but you should also have the wherewithal to deliver those promises, or else you're just fooling the people. For instance, where can they take the free bus savari from? Where can they get the free water from when the pipe water connections are not there? Where can they get the bhatta from when they're not getting any? Please, ma'am, why is she interrupting?
Priyanka,
now let me answer. Let me answer with an example.
Can you answer what I asked you?
Yeah, exactly. When the Prime Minister came to service, we had very little bank accounts. We ensured 45 crore people now have bank accounts. What happened because of that? 1 rupee sent, 1 rupee received. 85 paisa has not been gobbled up by Congress people or by those who do.
Fair enough.
So that is,
I get that. Nobody is questioning
that is a real change. No.
But what is the problem if they offer free water and
because what they are offering is only Vigyapan. They are not offering Vyavastha. Vigyapan karo, Vyavastha par slow. 2 लोगों को लोन दिया, 89 लोगों को नहीं दिया, और 19 करोड़ का विज्ञापन दिया. This is the problem. You understanding the problem?
Okay, can I come in? Okay, so Priyanka,
how will people hear?
One second. No, we heard you.
Another example. She's saying the poorest of the poor.
Yes.
10 lakh people in Delhi have not got a ration card. 10 lakh people. There is no Ayushman Bharat in Delhi. They don't get free cover that you might get in, say, Uttar Pradesh, or 5 lakh rupees for tertiary care. They have given Mohalla clinics, but if I go for Khazi in Mohalla clinic, I might die. This is the reality of this. So you have to also have deliverables to do it.
25,000 रुपया अगर आप कमाते हैं तो आप टॉप 10% में आते हैं. आपने
मैडम हम इसीलिए उनको फ्री टॉयलेट दिए, हम उनको फ्री उज्ज्वला दिया, उनको फ्री घर दिया, उनको हमने फ्री राशन दिया 2 साल तक. But you have not delivered as well. That's the problem.
Can I come in? Priyanka, I do have a genuine question. Then I want to go across to our experts one more time. One second. No, Priyanka, you had your time now. No, the issue of public transport. For example, I do find it problematic when free rides are offered to one gender alone. Fair enough, you can say this is a way to, get more women to travel by public transport. But again, the question I asked earlier, it has to be for a limited period of time. These benefits cannot be given endlessly. Then people get used to it. But now, on the issue of public transport, the electric buses in Delhi, I am from Delhi, by the way. The issue of electric buses that was been promised 4, 5, 6 years ago. How many of them have made it to the national capital? So it's one thing to offer free rides to women in public transport. What's the difference that has happened in public transport in the national capital?
Exactly.
If I may just intervene.
Yes, Mr. Sen.
The question of inequality is actually important, but this is not just an India-specific issue. All that can be said, in periods of high growth, inequality increases. This is purely a statistical phenomenon. It is not a moral point. And all said and done, more welfare measures have been taken since 2014 than in previous Indian history. This is an extraordinary feature of this government, which is considered to be right-wing. So this is not contestable. That has indeed happened, and it is most welcome because the poor have been given specific material benefits which cannot be taken away, from Shauchalaya to water being piped to their homes, to subsidized gas cylinders. All of this is fine. But we need to also be very mindful of the budgetary consequences because, as I keep saying, future growth is the path of betterment. And in a poor country, we have to make some hard choices about what we can and cannot do. And really, promises are one thing and delivery is another.
Right.
And that the electorate alone is entitled to judge.
And Mithali, I do come back to you for a final comment before I give Shehzad and Priyanka a chance. The issue is also, again, when you start giving these promises or making these electoral promises, and let's say you're delivering it, and let's say there's no problem. Let's say this is a good benefit that you give. Unfortunately, the trend that is emerging is your performances in long-term reform or structural changes or structural capacity building, those expectations from the public go down because public can say, okay, but I'm getting this free. Is that not a bad trend for Indian politics?
Absolutely, Shivani. I totally agree with you on that. And what we actually need to build in India today, and I'm so glad that this debate is happening, is a social protection architecture where there are certain income-related conditions that kick in. When we look at European economies or we look at American economies, we know that when somebody is unemployed, they are entitled to a dole, right? They are entitled to an unemployment allowance, and they have to show that they are looking for a job, that they are looking for employment in order to receive that unemployment benefit. So I think what is very important in India is to today have this discussion of what kind of a social protection architecture do we envisage for our country. End a lot of subsidies, especially around those commodities which are climate linked, like power and water, where they are, detrimental to our climate resilience and to the environment.
I've run out of time, though. I do thank all of you for sparing your time and, adding to this. One thing is certain, this debate is not going anywhere. In fact, I think ahead of any next state elections and up to the Lok Sabha elections in 2024, this is going to be the big debate. And Shehzad and Priyanka, thank you for coming in and butting it out. I do hope to have you again because certainly, as I said, this debate is going to be back as well. Time for a very short break now. On the other side, we'll be joined by India's greatest shuttler, one of India's most decorated athletes, PV Sindhu, who's fresh from her first ever gold at the Commonwealth Games. Stay tuned.